We're now going to make a new computer game, this time in the style of Flappy Bird. Now it's going to build on some of the skills that we previously learnt in our last game. So some of the bits I'm going to race over because you've already done those, but I'll go through the bits that we need to do. So let's have a look at what I've got to start with. So looking at the computer game, I'm going to remove my Scratch character and I've put a new character in of this ghost. So I'm going to be making the Flappy Ghost style game. So here's my ghost. Now I'm just going to go in and edit him a little bit. You'll see from my code here I've got 2 costumes and they're going to change every half second, forever, keep looping round. So let's have a look at my costumes. If I look at my first costume, here's the ghost, and my second costume I've just right clicked and duplicated to get my second ghost, which started off the same, but if I flick between the first ghost and the second ghost, you'll notice that his tail moves up and down. Now that's just giving a little bit of animation to the ghost. So there's the first one, here's the second one. What I'm going to do now is change the top of his head to move. So I'm just going to use the select tool and I'm just going to select the top of his head just like that, and I can make a copy of this, and I can then, as I drag that through, I've moved it over. I can just use the left and right arrows on my keyboard to move this where I want it. So that's moved his head over to the top. You'll notice a little bit of mark here. I can just use the erase tool just to tidy that up a little bit. So I've now got my first ghost and second ghost. So as my script moves through the two every half second, it's just going to change the appearance to make it look as if my ghost is flapping and moving. So if we go back to the code, so there's the bit at the start of the game. Forever it's going to switch to ghost 1, wait half a second, switch to ghost 2, and keep looping round or iterating round this bit of code here. Now the second bit of code I've got here is forever at the start of the game. It's going to change y by 0.5. Remember we had an x and y axis, so y was going from top to bottom. So it's going to go down by 0.5 and keep looping round. So let's just press play. Let's press the green flag to see what happens. We can see the animation in the ghost and we can see that he is slowly moving down. So that's the first stage. The next stage is to create a new button that's going to make him go back up. Now before we've used keyboard controls, but this time we're going to choose a sprite, but we're going to use one that's already made, and if we just type in button, we can see that there are several buttons already, and I'm going to just choose this blue button here. So here's my button. I'm going to go into the costume of this button, and I feel at the moment it's slightly too big, so I'm just going to use the select tool, select the button, and using the corner I can just make that a little bit smaller. I can now add some text. If I click just here, I'm going to use the word click as an instruction. I'm going to select the writing and I'm just going to change the colour to white so that it stands out on my blue button. So now I can just use the arrow keys again to move the writing into the middle of the button and get it positioned where I'm happy with it. So there is my click button, and again I can go back to the code, and what I'm going to add in here is when the sprite is clicked, so I'm doing this on the button, when the sprite is clicked I'm going to broadcast, and I'm going to create a new message here for my broadcast, and this is going to be click. Click OK. So every time I press the click button it's going to broadcast click. Now when I go back to my ghost sprite, and before I go any further I'm just going to rename him. So when I receive click, on the motion I'm going to change my y by 10. You can change this number how much it jumps up, same with how quickly he falls down. So let's just try again by pressing go. Every time I press the click button he flies back up. If I stop clicking, he then gradually falls down with a little bit of gravity. You might just want to move your click button somewhere more appropriate. So that's the first stage of your game, making your sprite that just falls on its own and a click button to send him back up.